Prepare to say goodbye to your loved ones, for their time is up. Yes, my child, I am your Father in heaven, the Lord your God, and I speak to you to make you aware of upcoming scenarios. My child, I speak into the silence that has grown thick over the world, a silence made not of peace but of the exhaustion of hearts that have forgotten how to listen. I speak not to condemn but to unveil, not to terrify but to awaken what still trembles with life beneath the layers of distraction you have woven around yourselves. You ask for more time, yet every hour given was scattered like seeds upon stone. You ask for mercy, yet mercy has been raining upon you from the moment breath entered your lungs. What I speak now is not punishment. It is the final truth uncloaked. For ages beyond your counting, I have whispered to you in ways so gentle you mistook them for coincidence. In the warmth of dawn, in a stranger's kindness, in the ache that urged you toward compassion, in the tug of conscience that begged to redirect your steps. I walked beside your sorrow and lingered at the edges of your joy. I waited in the spaces where you feared you were alone. Yet many turned their faces away, not out of malice but out of weariness, forgetting that love is the only tether strong enough to keep a soul from drifting into oblivion. Now the cycle turns, and the moment you have evaded stands before you, not a day of wrath, but a threshold. Not an ending imposed upon you, but the culmination of choices, the harvest of countless yesterdays. I do not come to shatter the world. The world has been fracturing itself. I come to speak the truth plainly, because you can no longer afford to misunderstand. Your days, shaped by rushing and noise, are drawing toward a quiet that cannot be postponed. You feel it already in the trembling of your spirit, the sense that something vast and immeasurable brushes against the edges of your reality. You sense the weight of an unseen curtain swaying, ready to part. It is not the end of existence. It is the unveiling of what lies hidden beneath your illusions. Look at the ones you love. Their faces, marked by laughter and grief, hold entire galaxies of meaning. Yet how often have you hurried past them, believing there would always be another evening, another chance to say what your heart has carried untold? You have lived as though eternity were tucked conveniently into your schedule, as though breath were guaranteed. But the breath you hold now is a miracle in motion, and every heartbeat is a fragile lantern in the darkness. Cherish them while these lanterns still glow. Time is not slipping away from you as a thief in the night. It is returning to me, and all things return to their source. Do not fear this. Fear only the moments wasted on pettiness, on bitterness, on the brittle armor you built to shield yourself from vulnerability. You believed strength was in hardness, yet the strongest things I ever made, love, forgiveness, humility, are the softest. Sit with your loved ones. Hold them as though the world were trembling beneath your feet, because it is. Speak truth without hesitation. Do not hide your affection behind pride or fear. Let your heart spill over, for what you release in love is never lost. Even when flesh fades, the love given becomes part of the eternal fabric, woven into the light that cannot be extinguished. Do not imagine that I delight in endings. I am the architect of beginnings. What you call an ending is merely the point at which your narrow vision can no longer trace the horizon. Beyond the veil you fear lies a continuation so profound your human vocabulary collapses beneath its weight. I do not summon you toward destruction, but toward awakening. Still, awakening requires a surrender that many resist. You cling to your illusions with trembling hands, convinced that letting go will leave you empty. You do not yet realize that the hands you fear to unclench were made to receive. You are terrified of losing control, unaware that you never possessed it. The river of time has always carried you, yet you pretended to steer its tide. Now the river bends sharply, and you will see clearly what has always been. Do not let dread overshadow this hour. Instead, let clarity flood your mind. You were born into a world that distracts you from your own soul, that teaches you to measure worth by achievements rather than by compassion, that leads you to forget the sacredness pulsing in every moment. This forgetting has cost humanity its peace. But even now I extend my hand, not to rescue you from doom, but to guide you toward truth. You fear what is coming, because you assume it is punishment. You judge me by the severity with which you judge yourselves, but I am not the voice that condemns you. I am the voice that calls you home. I do not arrive with fire and rage. I arrive with a mirror. In that mirror you will see your life as it truly is, the love you gave, the wounds you healed, the kindness you offered without reward. You will also see the moments you hid from yourself, the truths you buried, the opportunities abandoned out of fear. But this is not to shame you. It is to make you whole. There is no shame in imperfection. There is only pain when you refuse to grow from it. Many of you have walked through storms that nearly shattered you, carrying burdens you believed too heavy to bear. Yet here you stand, hearts softened by struggle, souls stretched by longing. You do not recognize the strength born from suffering, but I have seen it. I have watched you rise after every fall, even when you believed there was nothing left in you. I have loved you through every collapse and every resurrection. When I say time is up, I do not mean hope is lost. I mean the era of sleepwalking has reached its limit. Humanity stands at the edge of a precipice, one built not of earth but of spiritual consequence. You cannot step backward into ignorance. You cannot run forward without intentionality. You must choose to awaken or to remain bound by fear. This choice is not collective first. It is individual. It begins in your quietest thoughts, in the chambers of your heart, where no one else can enter. The veil will lift, not in a flash of spectacle, but in the gradual dawning of awareness. Some will perceive it as peace. Others will perceive it as disorientation. A few will cling desperately to what is passing away. But the brave, those who dare to face their own truth, will find a serenity that surpasses understanding. It is for them that the next chapter awaits. Take this moment seriously, but not with despair. Gather with those who matter. Let your final conversations of this era be filled with sincerity. Sit in silence with those you love. Look into their eyes and see the reflection of your own heart. Forgive them for their failings, for they, like you, have been stumbling in a world that teaches survival before compassion. Forgive yourself as well. You carry guilt like a chain around your neck, forgetting that guilt only binds you when you refuse forgiveness. You ask why I allowed the world to reach this breaking point. The truth is both simple and difficult. Free will is the most sacred gift I bestowed upon you. Without it, love would be compulsory. Compassion would be mechanical. Growth would be impossible. I allowed humanity to choose its path, and many chose fear over love. But even in those choices, seeds of redemption were planted. Darkness taught you to long for light. Division taught you to yearn for unity. Pain taught you empathy. Every wound has been a doorway. Now I ask you to walk through the final doorway of this age. Release your illusions. Let the truth settle within you like a quiet flame. The world you have known will shift, not vanish, but transform. Some structures will fall because they were built upon deceit. Some relationships will dissolve because they were rooted in fear rather than truth. Some dreams will shatter so that truer dreams can emerge. This is not cruelty. This is pruning, so that life may flourish anew. Hold tightly to your loved ones, not because they will be taken from you, but because love is the only force strong enough to carry you into what comes next. Love is the anchor when everything trembles. Love is the compass when you lose your way. Love is the bridge between the world you know and the world awaiting you. Do not cling to the material things that once defined your identity. They were never meant to last. What endures are the moments of genuine connection, the tenderness you offered, the hands you held in times of sorrow. These are the treasures that follow you beyond the horizon. Some of you feel unworthy of what lies beyond this moment, burdened by regrets too heavy to name. Hear me. Nothing in you is beyond redemption. The mistakes you made do not define your essence. I see the goodness you tried to hide, the compassion you offered quietly, the battles you fought in silence. I see the courage it took simply to continue living when your spirit was weary. I see the beauty you were too humble to acknowledge. If only you could see yourselves as I see you, you would weep not from fear, but from relief. The time you have left in this chapter is not measured in hours or days, it is measured in awareness. Those who awaken quickly will feel the shift gently. Those who resist will feel it as turbulence. But all will move forward because stagnation is no longer possible. Let go of the belief that you must face this alone. You have never been alone. Every tear you shed was witnessed. Every prayer whispered into the darkness was heard. Every longing of your heart was felt. I am closer to you than your own breath, not hovering above you but intertwined with the very being of your soul. What comes now is not annihilation, but revelation. The world will tremble because truth shakes the foundations of all that is false. But in the trembling you will find clarity. In the shaking you will discover what is unshakable. Speak gently to your loved ones. Hold them. Reconcile with those from whom you are estranged. Let pride fall away like dust. Pride will not serve you in the coming dawn. Only vulnerability will. Let your final acts of this era be acts of courage and tenderness. Let this moment be the turning of your heart toward what matters most. You fear endings because you do not remember the beginnings that preceded them. You fear the unknown because you have forgotten that I am already there. You fear losing what you love, but love cannot be lost. It can only change form. If you could see what waits on the other side of this threshold, you would not tremble. You would step forward with steady feet, knowing that every sorrow you endured was preparing you for a beauty beyond comprehension. The world is exhaling. Soon it will inhale anew. And when it does, those who have embraced truth will rise like seeds bursting into bloom. You wonder why you must always be prepared to say goodbye to things you never expected to lose, why change comes like an uninvited wind, why seasons shift even when your heart begs for stillness. Hear me, the world you inhabit was never crafted to remain frozen. Life moves because life is alive, and anything that is alive must grow, and anything that grows must shed. To cling to the temporary as though it were eternal is to grasp water and mourn its passing through your fingers. You were not created to hoard moments. You were created to be shaped by them. Loss is not punishment. It is transition. The doorways you dread are the very thresholds that lead you toward the fullness of who you must become. Yet you resist them, believing comfort to be the same as safety. I did not design you for stagnation. I formed you for transformation, even when it arrives disguised as farewell. You grieve not because I am cruel, but because your heart recognizes the sacredness of what once was. But do not mistake sacredness for permanence. Some things are holy for a season and no further. Consider the many times you begged for certainty, not realizing that certainty breeds complacency. It is the unknown that awakens your courage. It is the unexpected that reveals your resilience. It is the goodbye you feared that opens the gate to the chapter you never knew you were destined to walk. You say you want to grow, yet shrink at the very conditions required for growth. You say you trust me, yet tremble when I remove what you believed you needed. You ask for transformation, but resist the refining fire that alone can transform. But hear the truth. I do not remove anything from your life without preparing something deeper within you. What you call loss is often pruning, and pruning is never the end of the tree. It is the beginning of its flourishing. Yet pruning is painful because it alters the shape you have grown accustomed to. Still, would you prefer the comfort of overgrown branches that bear no fruit to the pain of becoming something fruitful? You must learn to let go even when your heart pleads for permanence. The things you cling to with desperation were never yours to possess eternally. They were gifts, brief, illuminating, necessary, but gifts nonetheless. Your task is not to hold the gift forever. It is to let the gift change you, deepen you, soften you. And when the gift completes its work, your task is to release it with gratitude instead of despair. You cry out when the unexpected goodbye arrives, as though surprise is proof of unfairness. But you forget that my wisdom is not measured by what you anticipated. I see the unseen threads that stretch beyond your horizon. I see the burdens hidden beneath your comfort, the stagnation beneath your security, the wounds buried beneath your routine. I see what harms you even when you call it home. I see what you fear to relinquish even when it has already begun to drain your spirit. I see what you cling to that prevents you from rising. So when I call you to say goodbye, it is not because I wish to diminish you, but because I wish to free you. You were not created to stand in the same place forever. You are a pilgrim of the soul, and every pilgrimage requires departure. Sometimes you must walk away from the versions of yourself that no longer serve who you are becoming. Sometimes you must leave behind dreams that were too small for the magnitude of your purpose. Sometimes you must say farewell to relationships that cannot walk with you into the next season, not because they were unworthy, but because their chapter in your story has reached its completion. Even love, in its purest form, must evolve. Not all who walk with you are meant to walk forever. Some are lanterns that accompany you through one night of your journey. Some are bridges that carry you across a single river. Some are teachers who appear briefly to reveal a truth you could not have learned alone. And when their purpose is fulfilled, they fade from your path, not as punishment, but as alignment. To force permanence where only a moment was intended is to distort the beauty of timing. But I do not ask you to welcome goodbye with joy. I ask you to welcome it with trust. Grief is not a failure of faith. Even my own son wept at the tomb of his friend, showing you that sorrow does not contradict hope. To mourn is to love. To release is to trust. To endure change is to grow in my likeness. There is wisdom in goodbye even when you do not perceive it. Goodbye teaches you that nothing earthly can sustain your spirit as I can. Goodbye reveals where you placed your identity in fragile things. Goodbye exposes what you feared to confront, what you believed you could not live without, what you trusted more than me. Goodbye tears the veil between illusion and truth. It reveals the impermanence of the temporal and the endurance of the eternal. You fear what leaving will take from you, but you do not yet see what it will give you. So many cling to shattered pieces because they cannot imagine the wholeness waiting beyond the break. But I tell you, until your hands release what is broken, they cannot receive what is sacred. Look at the story of Abraham, the biblical instance you asked for. I called him away from everything familiar, his land, his culture, his security, his father's house. He did not expect this. He did not prepare for it. Yet I asked him to say goodbye in a single breath, not because I wished to isolate him, but because his destiny could not be fulfilled in the place of his comfort. He could not become the father of many nations while clinging to the soil of his beginnings. His goodbye was the birthplace of his promise. And though he did not understand, he obeyed, demonstrating that trust is not the certainty of outcome but the surrender of control. This is the pattern I weave through all lives, though few recognize it. Your journey is not linear. It twists, it rises, it narrows, it widens. And at each turn, something must be released for something new to be embraced. The unexpected goodbyes are not interruptions to your destiny. They are the sculptor's chisel shaping you into who you must become. Do not assume that only sorrow prompts goodbye. Sometimes I remove things to protect you from what you cannot yet perceive. Sometimes I close a door because what stands behind it would crush the softness I placed within you. Sometimes the things you prayed for with trembling hope would have led you into shadows, so I withheld them not from cruelty but from mercy. And though you felt the sting of disappointment, it was but the mark of my shielding grace. Other times, I allow things to end so that your faith may mature. If you received everything you desired without loss, you would worship comfort instead of me. You would rely on predictability rather than trust. You would cling to earthly anchors rather than spiritual truth. You were not born for ease, you were born for transcendence. And transcendence requires surrender again and again, until surrender becomes your freedom rather than your fear. The unexpected farewell also teaches humility. You begin to understand that nothing in this world belongs to you. Not your possessions, not your plans, not even the people you love. They are all entrusted to you for a season. To love deeply is a sacred calling, but to release lovingly is an even greater one. And when you release, you learn that love does not vanish with distance. It alters, it transforms, it becomes purer, freed from expectation and anchored in eternity. You think loss diminishes you, but in truth it enlarges you. It expands your compassion, deepens your empathy, softens your heart toward others who mourn. A heart untouched by goodbye remains shallow, untested, unable to fathom the depths of humanity. But a heart that has loved and lost becomes a vessel capable of carrying greater light. It becomes a heart that mirrors my own. There will be times when you will feel that a goodbye has stolen something irreplaceable from you, and it is true that some things will never return in the form you knew them. But what is irreplaceable to you often becomes the foundation for what I will build next. Do not judge my work in your life by what has ended. Judge it by what it is making you capable of enduring and becoming. Even the goodbyes you never saw coming are woven with purpose. They push you toward parts of yourself you never would have discovered in comfort. They awaken the gifts buried within you. They sharpen your discernment. They teach you to listen to the quiet prompting of my spirit. They remind you that life is not measured by the number of things you can keep, but by the number of times you dare to love, even knowing that love requires vulnerability, and vulnerability always risks loss. Understand this. I do not delight in your pain. I do not rejoice at your grief. Every tear you shed is counted, every heartbreak felt, every silence heard. But I also see the unfolding beyond the ache. I see the strength that will emerge from your breaking. I see the purpose that will be born from your sorrow. I see the healing that will grow from your wound. I see the resurrection waiting behind what feels like death. Nothing I remove from your life is taken without intention. Nothing I ask you to release is discarded without meaning. When I lead you into farewell, it is always to lead you toward transformation. So live in readiness, not in fear, but in openness. Be prepared to say goodbye, not because everything will be taken, but because everything will change. Embrace change as the pulse of life. Hold your blessings with tenderness, not with chains. Give thanks for what you have now, knowing it may not remain, but also knowing that what comes next may astonish you with its beauty. Be willing to unclench your heart. Be willing to trust when the map dissolves. Be willing to walk when the path shifts. Be willing to love fully, knowing that love is worth the risk of loss. Be willing to release when I call, for release is the doorway to renewal. The unexpected goodbye will always come, but so will the unexpected hello. And the hello I prepare for you is always greater than the goodbye I require. You were not created for permanence in a temporary world. You were created for eternity. And every goodbye is a reminder that the things you long for most deeply are found not in what passes away, but in what remains forever in me. So walk with courage, love with abandon, release with trust. And when the time comes to say goodbye, do not see it as the end of your story. See it as the moment when the next chapter begins to breathe.